The more I try to stay away from anything related to Lincoln Riley, the more it seems to come back to the fray. As it seems, old Lincoln Riley had a hiccup and a slip-up with a big-time defensive recruit by the name of Lebbeus Overton. Had him in for 3 visits, struck out all 3 times. In baseball, Lincoln, that means your ass is out of the game. And now, Lebbeus has magically opened himself up to a 4th visit from Oklahoma. Gee, I wonder why. All that talk about, hey, I'm taking defensive seriously, yet Lincoln and his defensive guru, Alex Grinch, couldn't close the deal. And this is what USC has to look forward to. Let's talk about it. Boys and girls in sporting land. I'm JPC, I'm the OCF. That's the outlaw of college football, and this is, without a shadow of a doubt, the home of the common Joe and the common Sally, and the know even more so than all those media talking heads. That's right, my favorite part. Now, getting right to it. Like I said, I've tried to move on to other podcasts, done a few podcasts that weren't related to Oklahoma and even Lincoln Riley to some degree, but it just seems like Lincoln just keeps leaving little crumbs and trails of all the farces and lies that he weaved like a tarantula-type web. Of course, I don't think tarantulas weave webs, but that would be Lincoln Riley, because he claims to be able to weave webs and catch things like defensive recruits, but he can't, because tarantulas don't weave webs, Linky. And now, Lebbeus Overton is going to give Oklahoma a 4th visit. He's down to Texas A&M, Oregon, and Oklahoma. He wants a package deal. He wants him and his brother, Micaiah Overton, to be offered scholarships for the same team. That might be the only thing that I might hold off on as far as Lebbeus is concerned. Lebbeus is a 5-star recruit. He's a top 5 defensive lineman. So is he worth giving up an extra scholarship for a brother that might not be that great and might be a waste of a scholarship? Would be the only question I would have about acquiescing to a recruit like this. And that's the thing I get aggravated about with some of these recruits, man. They come out of high school now and think automatically they should dictate things and have NIL deals lined up. And you know, it'd be like me or you going into a job and saying, hey, we want to make as much as our boss. People talk and bitch about how much the coaches make, but the coaches are their bosses. So the bosses are supposed to make more money. The bosses are teaching you how to apply your trade. But that's another topic for another day. What I want to talk about is how Lincoln Riley could have struck out 3 times with this kid. This kid wants to play defense for Oklahoma. I think his father's even a legacy at Oklahoma, if I'm not mistaken. You guys can correct me on that. So this should have been a done deal. And this is what it comes back to with Lincoln. He's always been that sleazy car salesman that we didn't know was quite sleazy until things started percolating, people started coming out and uncovering the truth about Lincoln, and finally Lincoln splits town like a bad car salesman and sets up shop somewhere else. What better place than Los Angeles, California, where all the other sleazy people are? And I've been getting trolled by quite a many of USC fans out there. You know who you are, and basically telling me that I have no facts to back up what I'm saying about Lincoln and Caleb Williams and his his attention whore daddy. But these aren't factual events really that I'm talking about, USC people. I'm talking about stuff that is opinionated. And when you learn that in class, you learn that in like 3rd or 4th grade, the difference between opinion and fact. And this USC troll that I speak of hasn't quite learned what opinion and fact, how to differentiate the two. Just because you say it's a fact doesn't mean it's a fact. And the fact is, now this is a fact. The fact is that Lincoln struck out 3 times with this defensive player. That's a legacy. that he should have already sewn up. And now we have Josh Connolly, another defensive player from Washington, opening up his recruitment to Oklahoma. Now, do you think that would have happened had Lincoln Riley and his wink, sleight of hand, I'm going to take defensive seriously, recruiting approach, were still here? No. This is still becoming more and more evident to me every day. And I wasn't really buying into it at first, but I think the Oklahoma fans are onto something. This might have been a blessing in disguise for Oklahoma that Lincoln was to do this. This also reminds me a lot of the Dennis Franchione situation, where Dennis Franchione went to Alabama, had them doing pretty good, had a 10-2 season, told the players to hold the rope during the NCAA witch hunt that went on back then. And basically those players did stay when they had an opportunity to transfer out. Back then the rules were different. You couldn't just up and leave and go on a transfer portal. So they held the rope, stayed another year, and were hemmed up, and he left and went to Texas A&M. And, Texas A&M at the time, sort of like a lateral move, not really, sort of, with Alabama's tradition, they're actually a little bit better than Texas A&M, maybe a lot better. But he went to Texas A&M, and people were like, well, he had to leave because he wants to have success, and Alabama's going to be on probation, yada, yada, yada. Well, that's not the point. The point is it was dishonest, and the way he done it, just like Lincoln Riley, was dishonest in how he done things. And that he was going to Texas A&M, and you're thinking, he's going to have success, and then it's just going to be shoved in our face. But a beautiful thing about karma sometimes is it comes back and bites people even when they don't think they're going to get bit. And I think the same thing's going to happen to Lincoln Riley at USC. I think he's going to go out to USC. They may have a decent year the first year, go 8-4, 9-3, and then they're going to start teetering off. And Oregon, who is committing to defense, and other teams in the Pac-12 are also starting, it seems, to commit to defense more, are going to be more well-balanced, while Lincoln Riley is going to be the Pac-12 version of Mike Leach. That's basically what he is to me. He's like Mike Leach Jr. Yeah, he's funny. He's a clown. He says some funny shit. Tells butt pirate stories ad nauseum. But at the end of the day, Leach is just a circus show. And Lincoln Riley is quickly becoming another Azz Clown, just like Mike Leach. Because, like I said, I hate to keep beating a dead horse, but if you got a player that's a legacy, and you have him there 3 times, he obviously wants to come. But for some reason, he's unwilling to close the deal. It's because you're not doing something right. And sometimes I think that you're doing it intentionally. You bring in these players, you say, see, I tried to get these defensive players, but they wouldn't come, so I'm just going to pile up on offense, and we're just going to try to, push this through and come together, kumbaya, and we're just going to score 58 points a game and win 58 to 55 every game. We'll do it. We'll do it. And that may work in the Big 12 for a little while. But once the Oklahoma comes to the SEC, and Brent Venables knows this, and so does his staff, you ain't got to have a great defense. Oklahoma gets the offensive players, but you got to have a defense that at least holds opponents to less than 24 points a game, in my opinion, maybe even 21. But you ain't got to have a shutdown defense, because if Oklahoma's offense is putting up anywhere from 35 to 52 points a game, then they'll win every game they play if you just have a modicum of a defense. An average defense with Oklahoma's great offensive traditions, you're going to win a national championship eventually. You may not win it at a Nick Saban rate click, but you will get you a national championship or 2 if you just play a little bit of defense. I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying shut down defense, boring game, 9-6, none of that shit. I'm just saying, be able to hold a team to 21 to 24 points a game, and you'll win every game at least 35 to 24. But coming back to the whole Lebbeus thing, like I said, I'm not a real big fan of him trying to dictate his brother coming. But if he's that good, it might be worth it. Texas A&M's already backed off, so I think it's just between Oklahoma and Oregon at this point. And I think that if Brent Venables gets Lebbeus Overton and then the Josh Connolly kid, it's going to show everybody what a farce Lincoln was when he said he really couldn't get defensive players because of certain attributes of his offensive prowess. And that's all I got to say about that. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. And as always, KMCA, to all the other teams.